Hi, welcome to Disintegrator Films tutorial. Today we're going to be making this animation that contains this moving eyeball part and a little bit of camera shake. As you can see, there's a pretty cool texture laid over the top of it, kind of ties it all together. This kind of thing can be used for your Facebook page, your Instagram posts. It's a cool little loop, so it's going to be 10 seconds long. And the beginning frame and the end frame are the same, so that if you wanted to loop it for whatever reason, you're able to do so quickly and easily. So first thing that we need to do is create a new composition. Come over here to the Create a New Composition tab. We're going to name this Eyeball. Make sure that you are 1920 by 1080 and that your duration is 10 seconds. Click OK. Alright, so in the description box on this video you should find a link, and on that link you will find 3 files here. One is an eyeball fractal, the other one is a fuzz, and the last one is a peeled rusted paint. I'm going to need you to go ahead and download all of those, and when you're finished downloading all of those, there's 2 other things that we're going to need for this tutorial. The first one is a photo from Pexels. So this is a photo that we can use because they have required no attribution. Good people at Pexels, they got great quality photos. So go to that link there and download that photo. Second thing is going to be to download the file called 720 Infinity Portal Open. To do that, you will go to this link here, and that's also included in the description. You're going to want to register for free to go ahead and download the clip. Okay, support these guys if you can, because their collection is really awesome. I found it very, very helpful when making things like lyric videos. They have a collection of bird animations that I find to be really cool. Those are always kind of tough to find, so especially for this price. So it's like 50 bucks a month or something, but sorry, 50 bucks. It's like 50 bucks a year, something like that, and you get access to everything that they have. Anyway, all right. So now you've got the 5 files downloaded. So what we're going to do is import all those into the project panel here. Okay, so the first thing what we're going to do is we are going to grab our photo, which is close-up eye, eyebrow, drop it into the composition. I want to scale this to 42. What this is going to do is it's going to allow us a little bit of literal wiggle room at the end when we're finished. So, alright, now that that has been done, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come up here to the pen tool. We're going to click the pen tool. Okay, we're going to zoom in onto this eyeball, nice and close. Alright, so using the pen tool with the layer selected, it's very important. Alright, you're going to create a mask. Don't worry about those inner eyelashes for now. Alright, and your mask should go all the way around the eyeball. Alright, so okay, so once you've got your mask, you'll see that the eyeball is isolated. We want the opposite effect. So what we want is we want the eyeball removed. So to do that, we're going to come up here, click the selection tool, come on down to the layer, and on the masks, you can type M to get to masks quickly. On the masks, what we're going to do is come over here to this mode, and we are going to select subtract mode. Alright, so as you can see, we've got the eye cut out of this picture. And when working with After Effects and Photoshop, all of these things are layer based. So you can kind of think of it as sort of a scrapbook. So you're putting layers on top of other layers, and you would cut a hole out of one layer so you can see the layer underneath. So the layer underneath, what we're going to do is we're going to right click here. We're going to click select new and solid. We want a new solid. We'll go ahead and color that black, and we will name this gradient and click enter or OK. Now everything goes black here for a second. That's because your layer has been created on top of your other layer. Let's drag it under the close-up eyebrow shot. Alright, so no improvement, looks basically the same. Alright, we're going to select our gradient tool next, right click, go to effect and generate. And on generate, we're going to select gradient ramp. Alright, so that looks kind of cool. Let's come up here to the effects control panel, and what we're going to do is first of all select radial ramp, and the next thing that we're going to do is swap the colors. Alright, so we want to take this little target and we want to click dead center of the eyeball. Alright, so dead center of the eyeball. Next thing you do is you come over to the left side on the control panel and click the second target. That second target we want to put right about there. As you can see, the gradient is being clipped by that layer on top and the mask. Alright, so zoom out a little bit. This is what we have so far. And the next thing we want to do is we want to come down to the close-up eyebrows layer. We want to type the letter F, which will bring up mask feather. We want to feather out this mask a little bit. Alright, so go to about, I'd say 45 pixels. Then go ahead and double click on that little arrow to bring down the rest of the parameters. And let's raise the mask expansion just a little bit, about 21. Now as you can see, the feather took us away from the edge. What we're doing is we're restoring that edge, but keeping a nice little feather. Alright, so the feather is complete. Now, as with most masks, things like that, you're going to need to fine tune the edges just a little bit, just to make sure that there's no spillover. Well, what the object is we don't want to see any of the white, okay, of the eye. All the white of the eye we want to have replaced by the black. Alright, so we want to come up here to project, and the next thing that we want to do is we want to grab our footage crate infinity portal, and we want to drop it on top of the gradient. So we want it to be clipped by that mask as well. Alright, so as you can see, we're working with two different resolutions. That's okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to scale this down so that you can't really tell that the resolutions are different. Alright, so hold shift, grab the corner here of the layer, as you can see, and drag it down about there. Alright, again, what the object is we want to have a little bit of wiggle room. If you come down here to where it says footage crate and just slide that back and forth, you'll see you get this really cool, insane sort of thing going on with the lightning and the smoke and the all that stuff. So what I want you to do is find a spot that you like. I prefer with as little of that lightning and stuff on the edges as possible. But that's a personal preference. That's up to you. Ultimately, the goal of a project like this is to teach you how to apply these things to your own stuff. So why not get started like right away? So what you do is you slide this layer, the footage crate layer, the infinity portal, back and forth until you find the right spot. I'm going to say that's the right spot for me for this tutorial. Okay? Zoom out a little bit, and as you can see, it's starting to kind of come together. That's pretty nice. That's okay. Then what I want you to do is select footage crate layer and press Control D to duplicate it. As you can see, it's a keyed shot, so duplicating it does give us the added bonus of making it brighter. Stands out a little bit more. Because you duplicated it, however, now you're dealing with two of those layers right at the start. All right. So the next thing I think we should do is we should select both of these layers, these infinity portal layers, by holding Control and clicking on one and then clicking on the other. Then I'd like you to right click on those layers and come up here to where it says time and click freeze frame. Alright, now come back down to these two layers and hold shift and grab the ends of those layers and drag them out to the very end of the composition, to the 10-minute mark. As you can see, what we have now is, instead of a video, is we froze that shot right there in that perfect spot. Okay? Alright. Go ahead and collapse those layers for now. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is come back up here to the project window. We're going to look for that peeled rusted paint texture. And that we're going to drop underneath our footage. Alright, as you can see, it's a really small texture. There's not a whole lot of stuff we're going to need to do. You may want to hold shift and just size that up a little bit. Alright, so this is starting to look pretty weird. Let's right click on our peeled rusted paint layer, go to Effects, Color Correction, Hues and Saturation. Alright, for this I want to take down the saturation just a little bit and click on Colorize. I want to bring up the color saturation up to about there, 70. That looks good. Alright, the next thing that we're going to do is come down here to peeled rusted paint texture and find the transfer mode. We want to select normal and change that to overlay. Alright, the next thing that we want to do is come up here to the ellipse tool and we want to draw a mask right around the spot that's visible here. Alright. Then, just like last time, we'll go to subtract, because what our goal is we want to see that white of the eye. Alright, so we've drawn our mask around that circle there. Then what we're going to do is go back to gradient, and we're going to take that black point from right here, the end of ramp point, and we're going to bring it out a little bit. Now, the closer you get in, you can see that those edges start to darken up a little bit. Let's go ahead and make them so they're about that dark. Now that gives the eyeball depth. Starts to make it look like it is a sphere, just like a regular human eyeball. Now, we went and applied our hue and saturation to the peeled rust paint texture. Let's go ahead and click on Colorize. We've taken down the saturation about 36 points. Click on Colorize. What we're going to look for is a nice red color on that eye. You can go ahead and take one of those footage crate infinity portals and poke out the eye there. So we're only showing one. Alright, so now that we've got that squared away, come back up here to the project file, the project panel, and the next thing that we want to add is the eyeball fractal. Alright, so go ahead and grab that eyeball fractal and drag it into your scene just above the peeled rust. Alright, so we've added our eyeball fractal. Go ahead and poke out that speaker there. And on the transfer mode, what we're going to do is click overlay. Alright, so what I'm seeing is that there is some red between my gradient layer and my smoke layer. I want to get rid of that. So to do that, you're going to go back to the gradient layer and the effects control panel, grab that second one. And again, we're going to move that down. And what we'll do is we'll also go to the peeled rusted paint texture, double click that. Make that a little bit bigger. Next thing we'll do is we will come down here to the peeled rusted paint texture and open that up. Let's go ahead and expand that mask just a little bit. And go ahead and increase that feather as well. Let's go ahead and feather it out. Yeah, it's right about there. Alright, so now that fractal was animated. So if we go ahead and do a little render preview here. So it looks like a roiling bunch of clouds or blood behind this guy's eyeball, or in this guy's eyeball, rather. The next thing that we're going to do is right click on the composition panel, click new solid. This one we're going to make black. Again, we're going to drop it just below the footage crate footage. Then we're going to come up here to the mask tool, the ellipse tool. Make sure it's on the ellipse tool. If it's not, just put your mouse cursor over it and hold down the click button. There you will be given the choice what kind of tool you want to use, and this time we want to use the ellipse tool. So click on the ellipse tool. Then I want you to drag a circle around the eye like so. Alright, then I want you to go back to the black solid that you just created with the mask, this mask. Go to the mask, select it, and click subtract. Just click F for feather, and we're going to feather that out. Then double click that and click mask expansion. I want you to grow that mask out. So what this is going to do is, again, it's going to give us that 3D look of the shadow in the corners of the eye. Okay? Alright, so then we're replacing what we lost with that gradient tool. Let's go back up here to the top and click the selection tool. Alright, so the next thing that we want to do is click on the close-up eyebrow, right click, effects, color correction, hue and saturation. Now this is controlling the hue and saturation of the rest of the image, not the part that we cut out. So that part's not going to respond at all to us. Alright. And all we want to do is we want to take down the saturation. So we want to make it look a little more pale, and I think that's good. Right about there. Alright, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to select that solid that we just made. Want to right click, go to effect, color correction, and lumetri color. Now with lumetri color, you're going to want to select the creative and look for the faded film. Go ahead and raise that up to about there. Alright, now the idea is to match this fade with this fade and this fade. As you can see, there is a faded look applied to this photo, and in compositing we're trying to match that as best we can. So that gives us a little challenge because it canceled out some of that stuff that we just did. We worked so hard to do. But let's bring in that expansion a little bit on the solid. Alright, and bringing back that expansion. As you can see, we have this matted black and this matted black. And those look very similar. Alright, so that is taken care of. Next, right click on the composition panel, click new, and click null object. Then I want you to grab that null object and move its anchor point dead center of the eyeball. Alright, so you can see that the left upper corner of this object is now dead center of the eyeball. Go ahead and drag that null up in the composition window. What we're going to do with this null is use it to control the eyeball. So in order to do that, we've left ourselves a lot of room with all of these layers. As you can see, they all go well beyond the eye. What we're going to do is we're going to take both footage crates, even though one of them is poked out, doesn't matter, and the eyeball fractal, the gradient, and the peeled rusted paint texture. And what we're going to do is come over here to this little snail looking thing. That's called a pick whip. With all of those things selected using the control key, grab the little snail guy and draw a line to the null. Alright, so what this is going to do is it's going to give us one controller to control the animation of each of those components. If we just select the null, we can move it around now, and you can see that all the parts of the art that we've just made move along with that null. Alright, so I want to get that dead center. Again, Control Z undoes all of that we just did, movement wise. Okay. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is go up to the project window and grab our artist backdrop. Okay, so we drag that onto the top of the composition. So we'll take this and we will right click, effect, channel, invert. Alright, so now the white is black, black is white. Got a little pretty yellow going on here. Alright, so with the layer selected, go over to the transfer mode, change normal to screen. Alright, then what we're going to do is we are going to right click on that abstract backdrop layer, click effect, color correction, brightness contrast. It's been my experience that it's helpful to click this use legacy switch. What we want to do is reduce the brightness of this level of this item just a little bit, and let's go ahead and reduce the contrast as well to about 9. Alright, as you can see, this is really starting to come together here. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to right click on the composition and open area there, click new, adjustment layer. We're going to right click on that adjustment layer and go to effect, color correction, lumetri color. Again, we're going to go up to this creative panel and we're going to click on the faded film and we're going to fade it all together. Now, it's been my experience that once you've done your composite, it can go a long way towards selling the idea that this image is not composited if you add adjustment layers and color correction. Now, on top of all of the layers that you've done, what that'll do is it'll tie this color here with this color here with this color here, because you're affecting them all the same. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go up to the project window, click that, and we're going to grab our fuzz. And we're going to go ahead and drop that fuzz right on top. Again, we need to go on this top layer over to the transfer mode and click soft light. Alright, so that gives us a very interesting texture here. As you can see, kind of scan lines as though this were some sort of a television that we were watching. And again, let's go ahead and get a render preview here so far. Alright, so now as you can see, that overlay is animated to look kind of like a security camera footage. Alright, so we are almost there. Now the next couple of things, super easy to do. If you've never done animation at all in Adobe After Effects, this is super easy. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to click on the Null 2 object. We're going to open that up. Alright, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to select this Null 2 object. We want to click on the stopwatch next to the word position. Now, this is going to allow us to move this thing here. And since everything else is tied to that, all the other components of the eye are tied to the Null 2 object. Everything's going to move along with the Null 2 object, just like I showed you. So we've keyframed at about 222 and told it at that time this is where we want that eyeball to be. We want to go back to the very beginning, and we want to move that. Now, what I'd like you to do is right over here, just drag your box around that keyframe with your keyboard. Click Control C, and then move over to about 215 and press Control V. Now, what that did, let's play that animation real quick. So between the first and the second keyframes, that eyeball's not going to move. Then, as we pass to that third keyframe, the eyeball is going to move to the position where we told it to be at the third keyframe. Alright? While we're here, let's go ahead and highlight both of those footage crates and click Overlay. And now's a good time. Let's go ahead and turn on that second one. Alright. So again, that gives us some even more like aggressive design there. So it stands out way more when it's doubled up, especially in overlay modes and other modes. Anyway, so right now what we've got is the animation that makes it stay there until it gets to 215, at which point it's going to move to the center. Alright, so now that it's moved to the center, let's move forward in the timeline to about 615, and we will click on that diamond once again. So between this keyframe and the last one, we're telling After Effects we want that eyeball to stay put. Don't move. Alright. Then what we want to do is move forward to about 620 and hover over that first keyframe. Select it and press Control C on your keyboard and then Control V. And what we're telling it here is go back to that first position. And there we're going to leave it. Okay? So let's do a RAM preview. Alright, now as you can see, we've got the eye moving there to look at us, and then the eye moving back towards its original position. Now that animation looks pretty choppy and crazy, so in those keyframes where the eyeball actually does some moving, so not on that first keyframe, but on the other two. Let's drag that one out a little bit to match that one. What we want to do is select the first keyframe for the movement sequence. Go to Keyframe Assistant. I want you to click Easy Ease Out on that. Alright, move forward to the next one. Highlight it, select Keyframe Assistant, and Easy Ease In. Repeat that process for the other two keyframes. Alright, and there we have it. So one more time, render preview. What that should do is should smooth the stop and start of the animation. Now, they're very close together, so again, this is personal taste. You can go ahead and move those keyframes apart just a little bit. But be careful when you do that, because sometimes After Effects can get confused as to what it is you want them to do. So again, RAM preview with the changes made to those 2 frames. And as you can see, the movement starts slow, speeds up, and ends slow. Alright, all the while the red stuff is roiling in the background, and it looks super cool and crazy, super creepy. Alright, so that is done. The animation part is done. Now, let's go over here and collapse all of these. Now, an interesting thing that we can do, just to add a little bit of depth, is right-click on the composition window, click New, and Adjustment Layer. Drag that adjustment layer under the fuzz. Then what you want to do is come over here to the Effects and Presets window and type in the word wiggle. Alright? Once you've got that typed in, come down here to where it says wiggle-position. I'd like you to grab that wiggle and put it onto that adjustment layer. Right away we can see that it shifted everything. Let's go ahead and come up to the position and let's reduce that to about 22, 23, 22. Okay. And it says wiggles per second, 1 wiggle per second. Alright, so the next thing that I think we should do is come back down here to our eyeball fractal, grab the corner, hold the shift key, and size that down. So let's go ahead and drag that over. Alright. Not bad at all. Alright, let's go ahead and render this animation and have a look. See what we've got. As you can see, we've got the animated eyeball. We've just put in some wiggle to kind of sell the idea that this is handheld. And the eyeball is moving back and forth and back and forth. Now what you can do if you want to use this as a looping timeline video, you can render it out just as the 10-second version. Facebook should play that on an unending loop as one of your videos. Now, what you may want to do is come back over here to Project and click New Composition. Change this to 22 seconds and click OK. Come up here and grab your eyeball composition and drag that down here into the composition window. Alright, now what you want to do is click on the eyeball layer, and on your keyboard click Ctrl D to duplicate it. Select the second one, right click, go up to time reverse layer. Grab the layer, hold shift, and move it down to the end. So what that's going to do is that's going to play that clip backwards. But since there's no context, you shouldn't be able to tell that that's what's actually going on. The exact same loop should play in reverse as it does going forward. So now that you've got that, click on that first one again. Click Ctrl D. This is the correct time. Go ahead and drag that over to the end, holding shift, and it'll line up exactly with the final frame of the layer right before it. Let's go ahead and render preview this as a 22-second loop. Alright, so what we're seeing here is that the addition of this third version of it is causing a jumpy keyframe right here. Did you see that? Alright, let's do it one more time. It's causing the jumping keyframe there. Alright, so in order to avoid that, let's select that layer. Click delete on your keyboard. Hold shift and find the end of that layer. Then what we'll do is go ahead and on your keyboard press N, and then right click on the work area here and click Trim Comp to Work Area. That should alleviate that problem. There we go, no more jumpy frame. I had a good time. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time at the next Disintegrator Films tutorial. Thanks.